At the wedding venue, the officiant smiled and said, "Please exchange rings." In front of 300 guests. My fiancé pushed my hand away. "There's something I need to tell you." He looked at me, his tone as calm as if he were saying the weather was nice today. "I'm with your maid of honor. The day you had your trial wedding. We did it in the adjacent fitting room." She couldn't hold back and let out a few moans. "And you knocked on the door asking if she wasn't feeling well." In the audience, my best friend was taking a picture of me with her phone, beaming. The kiss mark on her neck was the concealer I had applied to her myself yesterday. "Not following you." He looked down at my dark circles. "In these 5 years, I've had long since gotten tired of it." My mother stood up, clutching her chest, the chair tipping over. She had no idea that the girl she had raised as her own daughter for 12 years had already knelt before her future daughter-in-law. Kneeling for a full 15 years. The wedding ceremony was at the intermission of exchanging rings when Lu Shiyan took my hand. The officiant's microphone was still held in the air, and the audience was packed. My mother was sitting in the first row, her hand covering her chest. Already red with her. This day had come too long. After my father, she had only me left. Shiyan turned around to look at me, his expression calm as if he were talking about something trivial. "Su Nianwan, there's something I want to tell you." I looked up at him, still holding the ring. The ring was chosen together with Jiang Ji. She had walked around the mall for a while and finally picked this simplest 6-claw setting. She said, "Wan, Lu Yanting is a reserved person, but he really cares about you. Actually, he was the one who made me and Jiang Ji fall for each other." The entire venue fell silent for about 3 seconds. I thought I had misheard. Jiang Ji was my best friend. From high school to now. For 12 whole years. She is my bridesmaid today. And an hour ago she was in the dressing room helping me arrange my veil, saying to the mirror, Wan, you really are coming along. You must be happy." When she put on my earrings, her hand trembled slightly, and I thought she was nervous. Yanshi kept saying to continue going to school, as if they were talking about how the weather was nice today. "That day when you went to try on the wedding dress, we were in the adjacent fitting room. She couldn't hold it in, and you came over asking if she wasn't feeling well, knocking on the outside door several times." I froze in place. I remembered that Jiang Zi was indeed not there. I messaged her saying the wedding dress had arrived and asked her to come help me, and she said okay. When she arrived, she said her stomach wasn't feeling well and needed to go to the restroom. Then she disappeared for nearly half an hour. After trying on the wedding dress, I went to find her, and there was some movement in the adjacent fitting room. I knocked on the door asking if she wasn't feeling well, but she only responded after a long time, saying she was fine and it would be okay soon. Later, she stood beside you as a bridesmaid, her legs trembling. My gaze went past Lu Shiyan, looking at the audience. Jiang Zhizheng was taking photos of me with her phone, beaming with a bright smile. She was wearing a bridesmaid dress in wedding colors, with a delicate necklace around her neck that was a birthday gift from me, which I had chosen for a long time last year. The salesperson said the meaning was forever together. And I thought it was perfect. Even just now when you were getting ready, she surrounded me, so nervous. She even scratched my back. Lu Shiyan glanced at his rings, his tone as casual as if he were talking about the weather. "Su Nianwan, I've told you everything. Whether we get married or not, it's up to you." After saying this, he finally looked at me closely. Those eyes I've looked into them for 6 years, from our chance meeting in the university library, to late night talks in our rented apartment, to him kneeling in front of my father's bedside, vowing to take care of me for the rest of my life. There was no guilt, no panic, only a sense of relief in those eyes. It was as if to say, finally, I don't have to hide anymore. People in the audience began whispering to each other. My mother's face showed a stiff smile. She covered her mouth, still not understanding what had happened. A few relatives stood up, their expressions confused. Jiang Zi's phone was still held up, but her hand was trembling, the screen flickering. I lowered my head, looking at the ring in my hand. The metal edge pressed painfully into my palm. I clenched it tighter, my knuckles turning white. "Why today?" I asked. My voice was better than I expected. Lu Shiyan sighed, reached out to loosen his tie. That tie was one I gave him, and it was the first time he wore it today. The way he sighed was very familiar. Every time we argued, he always started with that tone. "Don't blame Z. She originally told me not to tell you this whole life. But Su Nianwan, I don't want to hide anymore. I don't want to be involved in lies every time I see her. I don't want her to feel guilty every time she's with me. The way she looks at me every time you hug me, it pierces my heart. When he said the word guilt, there was finally a hint of movement between his brows, but it wasn't for me. It was for Jiang Zi. Last night, I suddenly remembered. He was so excited he couldn't sleep, laughing foolishly under the covers, saying, late at night, I actually took you home. Like a dream. So it turned out that the person in that dream was never me. I threw the ring at his face. The metal hit his cheekbone with a dull thud, exploded outwards, and rolled several times across the red carpet. Someone in the audience gasped, and my mother abruptly stood up, the chair scraping backward with a loud noise. I didn't see anyone's reaction and turned to run. The wedding dress skirt was too long, and I stumbled, my high heels catching on it. I ran with one bare foot toward the hotel's ornate entrance, the marble floor feeling icy to the touch, the skirt dragging on the ground and getting dusty. Someone was chasing me. Wan, Jiang Zi's voice. She was running in high heels, and I heard the sound of her heels tapping the ground getting closer. She grabbed my wrist, her grip forceful, her nails digging into my skin. Wan, what's wrong with you? Wasn't Lu Shiyan bullying you? Tell me, I'll go find him. Her eyes were red, looking at me anxiously, her face full of worry. I glanced down at her neck. Beneath the necklace, there was a faint red mark. I had asked her yesterday if she wasn't allergic to wearing it, and she said it might be due to skincare products she was allergic to. I told her to be careful with her sensitivity and not to use random products, and she said she understood. I stared at the mark, then suddenly laughed. Jiang Zi, are you feeling uncomfortable sleeping with my man? Her hand froze. The anxiety on her face instantly solidified, replaced by a pale complexion. Her lips trembled, her eyes wide open, and she was immediately drawn to it. I looked at her face, this face I had seen for 12 years. During high school military training, she fainted from heatstroke, and I carried her to the infirmary. I climbed 3 flights of stairs, my legs weakening from exhaustion. In university, she drank too much after breaking up with her boyfriend, and I stayed at the hospital all night. When the nurse came to change her dressing, she grabbed my hand and called me mom. That year, I brought the soup my mom had prepared to her bedside and fed her spoonful by spoonful. Wan, I don't call my name. I shook her hand off and took a step back. My foot stepped on some pebbles, making me gasp in pain. I tore the hem of my skirt, ripping the sheer fabric. Listen to me. It was an accident. I cut her off. An accident 5. Her face turned even paler. Lu Shiyan ran out at this moment, standing beside Jiang Zi. His tie was crooked, and the buttons of his shirt were undone one by one. He glanced at me. Then his gaze reflected the pale face of Jiang Zi, making his brows furrow. Zi, don't talk. I looked at him. I ask you, the day my father passed away, where were you? Shiyan's expression finally changed. He opened his mouth but said nothing. The day I passed away. Lu Shiyan said he was wrong. Jiang Zi said she was sick and lying at home. I went to the hospital alone to claim the body, to copy documents, and to call my relatives. My father had a sudden cerebral hemorrhage, and by the time he was taken to the hospital, he was already gone. I didn't even get to see him in his last moments. That night, I called Lu Shiyan, and he answered slowly, his voice a bit hoarse, saying he was in a meeting. He told me not to cry and said that uncle would become a star in the sky to guard over me. Jiang Zi lowered her head, and tears began to fall. She looked so beautiful when she cried, her tears dropping one by one like pearls. I used to be the most afraid of her crying, and every time she did, I would get soft and agree to anything she asked. But now, I only felt nauseous. Wan, I'm sorry. I shut up. I looked at her, and suddenly felt it was absurd. Su Nianwan. Lu Shiyan suddenly shouted, you've had enough. He walked forward and stood in front of Jiang Zi. His gaze at me was like looking at a tantrum-throwing stranger. His chest was rising and falling, and the veins on his temples were bulging. Sorry. But how many times have you known about it these past few years? I always ordered your favorite food. I went to your concerts with you. I endured 5 years just to take care of your feelings now. What's the big deal if I let it happen once? I stood there, my mind buzzing. 6 years. I've been with Lu Shiyan for 6 years. 5 years with Jiang Ziyi. In those 5 years, they met, dated, and slept together right under my nose. Afterward, he acted like nothing happened, smiling while accepting my kindness. I remembered every three-way gathering. Jiang Ziyi wearing high heels and twisting her ankle. Lu Shiyan handing her a bandage before I could. I recalled our roller coaster rides. Me vomiting my guts out. Him going around to pat Jiang Ziyi's back instead of me. I thought about the dog Jiang Ziyi had, barking at everyone but jumping on Lu Shiyan, wagging its tail and rubbing against his legs. I asked why the dog only loved him. And he said it might be because he looked like the previous owner. Turns out, I should have known much earlier, but I chose the dumbest path leading to myself. My mother was helped out. She stood at the hotel entrance, heard the shout from Lu Shiyan. Her face was as white as paper. Her lips trembled. She couldn't speak a word. The one helping her was my aunt. My aunt calling her, but she seemed not to hear. Her eyes staring straight at Lu Shiyan. Just last month, Lu Shiyan knelt before her, holding her hand and saying, "Mom, please rest assured and hand Lon Lon over to me. I will always treat her well in this lifetime." To prove his sincerity, he transferred all his premarital assets to my name. The marital home was only registered under my name. He said this was a peace offering for you, so you would know I won't let Lon Lon suffer injustice. My mother cried uncontrollably at the time, holding his hand and saying, "Little Lu, I entrust Lon Lon to you. Her father passed away young. This whole life, I just hope for her to be good. Now, this entrustment has become a knife." Mom Jiang Ziyi wanted to move forward, but my mom immediately took a step back and then fell straight down. Her back of the head hit the steps with a dull thud. "Mom!" I rushed over and hugged her. Her eyes were half open, her lips moving. But she couldn't speak. Her fingers clutched my sleeve tightly, as if she had something to say, but only muffled breaths came out of her throat. Her body was trembling and getting colder. "Call an ambulance! Call an ambulance!" I shouted at the crowd, my voice cracking. It felt like something was blocking my throat, and every word came out in a sob. Someone called 120, and people gathered around to help. I held my mom, her head resting in my arms. Blood seeping from the back of her head and staining my wedding dress. The white fabric was soaked through, turning a dark red. Jiang Ziyi stood outside the crowd, tears streaming down her face helplessly. Lu Shiyan stood beside her, one hand on her shoulder, as if comforting her. I glanced at them, saying nothing. When the ambulance arrived, my mother was already unconscious. The emergency doctor ran over with the stretcher and lifted her onto the ambulance. I followed behind and got into the car. As the door closed, I saw Lu Shiyan and Jiang Ziyi still standing there. When my mother was pushed into the emergency room, I sat in the hallway waiting. The hallway lights were white, making my eyes ache. My dress was covered in blood, and my hands were trembling. A nurse came over and asked what was wrong. I said my mother was inside, and she glanced at me before giving me a glass of water. The water was warm. I held the cup, my hands trembling, and some water spilled, scalding my fingers. The emergency room door opened, and a doctor came out, saying they needed to admit her for observation, suspecting a concussion and a stress-induced heart problem. He asked if she had ever had heart problems before, and I said yes. High blood pressure, coronary heart disease, and I had been taking medication. He nodded, with an unpleasing expression. I signed the papers, paid the fees, and completed the hospital admission procedures. By the time all the procedures were finished, it was already dark. I sat on a chair outside the room and suddenly realized I was barefoot. I didn't know where the other shoe was. The wedding dress skirt was torn in a large piece, covered in mud and blood. My phone rang many times. Lu Shiyan's, Jiang Ziyi's, and a few relatives. I didn't answer any of them. At 3 a.m, I went home to pack the things for the hospital stay. When I pushed the door open, there were still red double happiness couplets on the living room wall. It was Lu Shiyan who had put them up while standing on a ladder, and I was holding it from below. He said the couplets were crooked, and I said they weren't. And he said my eyesight was bad, and I said his was. He jumped down from the ladder, laughing, and hugged me, saying, "It's crooked, but it doesn't matter. We're not going to take them down anyway. The red 4-piece set on the bed is new." He picked it out with me, saying red is festive. I still remember in the mall. He picked out a set and said this looked good. I said it was too red. And he said getting married is all about being red. His shirt is still hanging in the closet. His toothbrush and mine are side by side on the bathroom sink. There's still the fruit he bought yesterday in the fridge, washed and put in a storage container, with a note stuck on it. 1-1. Don't be nervous tomorrow at the wedding. Eat fruit. I laid out my suitcase and started packing. The door rang. Lu Shiyan walked in. Standing at the bedroom door looking at me, he had changed clothes. Not the wedding suit. Wearing a gray t-shirt. His hair had been washed and was still wet. You don't need to move, he said. This house is yours. I'm leaving. I ignored him and kept packing clothes into the suitcase. The money from before doesn't need to be repaid to me. Consider it compensation for you. He put the wallet on the bedside table, paused, and then said, don't bother Zee anymore. She's not easy either. My hand stopped pulling the suitcase zipper. She's not easy. I turned around to look at him. The light from the corridor shone behind him, his face hidden in the shadows, his expression unclear. Lu Shiyan, if she's not easy, what about me? I was with you when you were enough. He cut me off, his voice calmer than I expected. I knew you were with me back then. And it wasn't easy. It's because I knew it wasn't easy for you that I gave you the choice. Su Nianwan. One must learn to be content. I stood frozen in place. Broke. When we first got together, he hadn't finished his graduate studies. I worked at a small company as a designer, earning 3,000 yuan a month. The rental apartment was in a suburban village. It leaked in the rain and had no heating in winter. We ate a bowl of instant noodles, even too poor to add an egg. The years I thought were the most beautiful. I couldn't even afford to buy a decent dress. Only daring to look at the tags of clothes in the mall. My mom scolded me for being foolish. And Jiang Zi also scolded me for being foolish. Now he tells me, one must learn to be content. My eyes grew warm. But no tears fell. Lu Shiyan saw my expression and paused for a moment. He walked over, bent down and hugged me, as he used to comfort me. 1-1. I said, the choice is yours. If you still want to marry, I'll make up a wedding for you. But Zi really suffered a lot of grievances. When you hug me, the way she looks at me, it stings my heart. You can kiss me in the sunlight. She can't. She can only cry in the dark. Do you know how that feels? Someone is in front of you, but you can't touch her, can't call her, can't even look at her too much. As he said these words, his tone was as gentle as if reciting a love letter, but every word pierced my heart. I pushed him away. Lu Shiyan, what do you see in her? I smiled. And finally tears fell down. Listen to her say, the day you fought the hardest. She had 8 in one night. How? The words were unfinished as the door was pushed open. Jiang Zi stood at the door, holding a bag of pineapple cakes, the one I love the most. The one I always have to queue for an hour to buy at that old street in the west of the city. I used to tell her that those pineapple cakes from that shop were the best I've ever had. And she remembered, always bringing me some whenever we passed by. Her tears fell immediately, like pearls from a broken string. 1-1. How can you say this to me? I already said it was an accident. Why do you have to insult me like this? She trembled all over, feeling so wronged. In the past, I would have already softened. I would have hugged her, said I'm sorry. Said I shouldn't have said that to you. I would have wiped her tears, told her not to cry. I was wrong. But now I just sit on the bed, watching her act. Lu Shiyan saw her crying and immediately walked over, raising his hand to wipe her tears. His movements were gentle, his thumb brushing her cheek. Then he turned around and yelled at me, that's right, we are just so starved for it. So on the day your dad died, when I called to comfort you, my voice wasn't right, not because I was empathizing with you, but because Zi bit too hard and I couldn't hold back. Lu Shiyan. Jiang Zi abruptly covered his mouth, his face ashen. The room fell silent, so silent that only the ticking of the wall clock could be heard. The day my father passed away, they were doing it, while I was signing the documents at the funeral home, while I was kneeling in the morning hall keeping watch. On the 7th day. Why after my father's death? Lu Shiyan said the company was too busy to come, and when I was burning paper money alone they were still doing it. Then he held me, saying, Uncle will become a star in the sky to guard you. I bit down hard on my lips. My mouth filled with the taste of blood. My lips were bitten through. blood trickling down my chin. Then I broke everything in the room that I could. Wedding photos, picture frames, table lamps, vases, glass shards scattered across the floor, glittering under the light. I overturned the coffee table. Fruits rolling everywhere. I threw the storage container from the fridge to the ground, stepping on the notes he had written. Jiang Zi wanted to come over and pull me, but she got hit in the forehead by the photo album that was thrown out. Ouch! She covered her face and crouched down, blood seeping through her fingers. The bit of guilt that had just risen in Lu Shiyan's eyes instantly vanished. He rushed over and grabbed my wrist, throwing me away. My back hit the wardrobe, the wooden edges digging into my spine, making me gasp in pain. The photo album fell to the ground, breaking apart. The photos scattered all over the floor. There was a photo of him confessing to me on the school rooftop, his face red like a cooked shrimp, holding a bunch of daisies he bought from the side of the road. There was a photo of the day I introduced Jiang Zi to him, our first time eating together, at the spicy hot pot shop outside the school. She smiled and said, "Lu Shiyan, if you dare to bully Wan, I won't let you off." On my birthday, they watched me make a wish with smiles, the candles on the cake reflecting in their 3 eyes. Jiang Zi hugged my neck, Lu Shiyan standing beside me making a yay gesture. Wan, what wish did you make? I hope the 3 of us stay together forever. Lu Shiyan relaxed his grip. He lowered his head, looking at those photos. His gaze changed. Just as he was about to say something, Jiang Zi shouted from behind, "Shiyan, my forehead hurts so much. I'm bleeding." He abruptly looked up, stepped over those photos, and ran to Jiang Zi's side. Her forehead was cut by the metal corner of the photo album, blood gushing out, trickling down her cheeks and dripping onto her white t-shirt. Lu Shiyan scooped her up into his arms, not turning back as he walked out. When he reached the door, he paused, not looking back. "Regardless, she is your best friend. You shouldn't have treated her like this. She's already so hurt." The door closed. I sat on the ground, surrounded by pieces. Those photos were scattered at my feet. One of them was Jiang Zi hugging me with a smile. We were both in school uniforms, with ponytails. That year she transferred. She was bullied, and I stood up for her. She held my hand and said, Wan, you're the best friend I'll ever have in my life. In my life. Turns out it's so short. The next night, Jiang Zi called me. She had been drinking, her voice slurred, crying breathlessly. The background was noisy, with people singing and the sound of glasses clinking. Wan, I really didn't mean to. Can you forgive me? I don't want to lose you. We grew up together since we were kids. I don't want to break up just because of a man. She kept crying on the other end. Crying. Her words fragmented. Do you know? I can't sleep at night. Every time I close my eyes, I think of you. Think of how good you used to be to me. I'm such a bastard. Later, a waiter took over, saying, Miss, our bar is closing, and if you don't come pick her up, we can only leave her by the roadside. He gave the address. In the southern part of the city. I was silent for a long time. Then I picked up my coat and left. I promised to take care of her when her parents were on their deathbed. This was the last time. When I arrived, I saw Lu Shiyan pinning her against the wall in the back alley of the bar. The alley was dark, with only one streetlight casting a dim, yellow glow. Graffiti covered the walls, and broken wine bottles littered the ground. He kissed her fiercely, as if he wanted to press her into his bones. One hand held the back of her head, the other gripped her waist. Jiang Zi, how many times are you going to push me away? You know who I love the most is you. Why won't you accept me one after another? She pushed him away, crying, her tears falling to the ground. Her makeup was smudged. Her eyeliner had run down her cheeks. But she's my best friend. I can't take away her happiness. And what about you? What about your happiness? She paused for a moment. Then she rushed into his arms, holding him tightly, her face buried in his chest, her shoulders shaking. I love you too. But what about Wan? I hid behind the pillar, watching them hold each other. Lu Shiyan lowered his head and kissed her hair, one hand stroking her back, his voice low and gentle. If she doesn't agree, I'll take you away. We'll leave here, go to a place where no one knows us. I turned and walked away. The night wind blew, making my face cool. I raised my hand to touch it. It was tears. I took out my phone and flipped to the email offer that had been lying in my inbox for 3 months. It was the position of director at a design company in Hangzhou, with a salary 3 times my current one. When I first received the offer, Lu Shiyan said Hangzhou was too far, and he didn't want me to go alone. He wouldn't be at ease. Jiang Ziyi said, Wanwan, don't go. What will I do if you leave? I declined. There's no need for it now. The 3rd day my mother was hospitalized. I went downstairs to buy congee. There's a congee shop outside the hospital that makes century egg and lean pork congee, which is my mother's favorite. I waited in line for 10 minutes and carried 2 bowls of congee back. As I approached my mother's room, I heard someone shouting inside. When I pushed the door open, Jiang Ziyi was kneeling in front of my mother's bed, her forehead touching the ground. Auntie, I'm sorry. It was me who hurt Wanwan. It was me who broke them up. I'm shameless. I seduced Lu Shiyan. You can hit me or scold me. Don't worry. I'll leave voluntarily. I'll give Wanwan happiness. My mother leaned against the hospital bed, her face flushed red, her fingers clenching the sheets tightly. Her lips were purple, her chest rising sharply, as if she couldn't catch her breath. You. She couldn't breathe. The monitor started beeping loudly, the numbers jumping rapidly. Auntie, what's wrong with Auntie? Jiang Ziyi stood up to help her. What are you doing? I rushed in and pushed Jiang Ziyi hard. The porridge spilled, scalding my back of the hand. But I didn't care. My mother's body was trembling, her eyes wide open, her mouth gaping but making no sound. Her hand grabbed in the air, then fell limp. The beeping sound of the monitor turned into a straight line. Doctor, call the doctor. I held my mother's hand and frantically pressed the call button by the bedside. Her nails dug into my wrist, hard, as if she wanted to hold on to something. Jiang Ziyi stood beside me, tears streaming down her face helplessly. Wanwan, I came to apologize. I slapped her back. Her face was knocked to the side, finger marks appearing instantly. Her lips split, oozing blood. You weren't enough to steal my boyfriend. Now you want to kill my mother. Jiang Ziyi, how can you be so vicious? I grabbed her arm and dragged her out. She screamed in pain as I didn't let go. Just as I reached the door, Lu Shiyan arrived. He held a basket of fruits in his hand, and upon seeing the slap mark on Jiang Ziyi's face, his eyes instantly turned red. You're crazy. She's your best friend. He pushed me away and pulled Jiang Ziyi into his arms. My back collided with the floor stand, and the metal hook pricked my shoulder blade, causing the world to go black. I heard myself groan, then felt warm liquid trickling down my back. Blood dripped onto the floor. 1 drop, then 2. My mom saw the blood and her eyes widened even more. Her mouth opened, a muffled sound coming from her throat, as if she wanted to call my name, but only coughed up a mouthful of blood. Then her whole body went limp. The monitor emitted a long beeping sound, a straight line. Mom, ignoring the pain in my back, I rushed forward and pressed on her chest. Pressing hard. Her body was still warm, but there was no breath left. I pressed for a dozen times or so, when a nurse rushed in and pushed me away, starting CPR. I was pushed into the hallway, watching the door close. I knelt in the hallway, blood from my back soaking through my hospital gown and sticking to my skin. A small pool of blood was on the floor where I had dropped. Lu Shiyan stood at the other end of the hallway, Jiang Ziyi leaning against his arms, crying. He glanced at me, hesitating in his eyes. Then he pulled Jiang Ziyi and turned to leave. I heard his voice from the end of the hallway, growing farther away. Since she won't accept it, let her fend for herself. The lights in the operating room went out. A doctor came out, took off his mask, and glanced at me. That look was the same as the day my father died. Relative. The patient had acute myocardial infarction and didn't make it. I knelt on the ground, my knees hitting the cold marble tiles with no sensation. The corridor was quiet. Only the overhead fluorescent lights hummed. From afar, I heard the sound of a cart passing by. People talking, people laughing. My mom left. The last person in this world who loved me is gone. 3 days later, I buried my mother. The cemetery is on a mountain outside the city, next to my father. The tombstone was one she chose herself before she passed. She said the scenery was beautiful there, where you could see the entire city. The photo of her on the tombstone was taken last year. She looked very happy, with curved eyes, just like my father when he was young. I stood in front of the tomb for a long time, from morning until noon. Finally, I said, "Mom, I'm sorry." Then I dragged my suitcase to the airport. Lu Shiyan and Jiang Zi called and messaged me over 100 times. I didn't look at any of them. Lu Shiyan sent a long message, but I didn't open it. Only saw the preview. 1-1. I know I shouldn't have said those things. I know I was wrong. Will you come back? Can we talk properly? I'm very sorry about Auntie. I deleted the message. When the plane took off, I looked out the window at the city shrinking slowly. The house turned into blocks. The road turned into lines. And the river turned into a silver ribbon. I still have that group photo of the three of us saved on my phone. Jiang Zi was hugging my neck. Lu Shiyan stood beside me, and we were both laughing. It was taken on my birthday. The candles on the cake hadn't been blown out yet. Jiang Zi said, "Quick, quick, take a picture. The candles are about to go out." I opened that photo and looked at it for a long time. Then I hit delete. Goodbye. The plane flew through the clouds. Sunlight streamed in, blinding me to squint. A new city, a new job, a new life. A life without them. A year later, I was promoted to design director at my new company. The studio grew from 3 to 12 people, took on several big projects, and gained a bit more reputation in the industry. I rented a house with a balcony and grew several pothose plants on it, watering them every morning and letting them bask in the sun. That day, I worked late and, as I left the office building, a message popped up on my phone. It was from a former colleague. "Evening. Do you know Jiang Zi jumped into the river?" I stood under the streetlight, looking at the message. It was followed by several voice messages, which I opened to listen. The colleague said, "Lu Shiyan searched everywhere for me. I went to my mother's grave, my former company, and all the places I might go. It got to the point where relatives knew about it. Later, someone saw Lu Shiyan kneeling on the ground, begging Shiyan not to leave her. And everyone knew the truth. Relatives gathered at Jiang Zi's doorstep, shouting at her, throwing things at her door, and posting large posters in the community. She couldn't take it and went to the river alone at midnight. When he was found the next morning, he was already gone. Jiang Zi's family blamed Lu Shiyan entirely and reported 3 million to him. Lu Shiyan couldn't come up with the money, and while they were arguing in the stairwell, someone pushed him. He fell from the 3rd floor, head first. When he was taken to the hospital, he was already dead. After listening to the voice recording, I put my phone in my pocket. The streetlight cast a long shadow of me, and people walked past on the street, none of them recognizing me. A couple walked hand in hand. A mother pushed a stroller, and a food delivery boy rode his electric bike, ringing the bell. I took a deep breath, and the air smelled like osmanthus. Then I walked into the subway station, tapped my transit card just like usual. The subway arrived. I got on, and found a seat by the window. People in the carriage were looking at their phones. Some were closing their eyes to rest, and others were staring blankly at the handrail. The glass window reflected my face. I had lost a lot of weight compared to a year ago. My cheekbones were prominent, and my eyes were dark and swollen, but the surface is calm. Arrived. I got off, returned to the station, crossed the overpass, through the community, upstairs, opened the door, turned on the light. The pothose has grown new leaves, tender green. Looks very good under the light. I changed the light, took a shower, dried my hair, lying in bed, turned off the light. There was the sound of cars passing by the window. Looked like a tide. I closed my eyes and fell asleep quickly. Still have to work tomorrow.